I'm downtown, and I always get so confused what to call everything, because the town I live in now is the size of an old neighborhood I used to live in Chicago. I said that in a recent video, but realizing that's why I get confused sometimes. It's kind of like Grand Haven is my neighborhood, and all of, I don't know, Grand Rapids, West Michigan feels like the city, because that's what Chicago felt like, but most people around here don't see it that way. That's just maybe how I see it, in order to be / feel normal while living in such a small town. Conversely, though, I used to call Lincoln Square going downtown in Chicago, so there's a lot of seagulls right here. I don't even know why I'm rambling about that, but here you go. They're probably gonna all fly away and be mad at me because I'm right by the sign that says U.S. government property, do not enter. So the seagulls are probably like, hey, this is our turf. Back it off, lady. Guys. I've been avoiding, well, I don't want to talk about that. This is very beautiful. It's very beautiful here. I think it was ranked #1 place to retire. That was... I'm still surprised by that, though, because, like, it's really cold here, like, at least half the year. And, like, dangerously so, at least a third of the, well, a fourth of the year. Anyway. Whatever. Just rambling. I don't have any purpose for pulling out my phone. I was gonna make up songs and maybe journal a little bit. But I probably won't journal because I feel like it's so hot out my pens will explode. I'm probably not. I don't know. I'll probably end up uncomfortable with wearing this small little tight t-shirt. Although I really love the design. Thanks, Maddie Jackson. Well, where should I set up my phone? And there's a giant hornet. Don't be a murder hornet! Okay, bye. Hi. I have it balanced on my bike helmet. So we'll see if you can even hear this, but at the very least you can watch some boats go by. Here we go. Forgot to tune. Well, I'll tell you about my day. So far, I was at home in the AC journaling, checking Instagram after posting about that article that Review West Michigan did, and it was such an honor. Thank you, Eric Mitz. Thank you, Review West Michigan. They wrote like a full-page spread on my 4 years of creative challenges. 3.5, but anyway, and kind of described them all, described creativity in isolation with social distancing, and then interviewed me as well, and there were quotes. Anyway, it was really nice. Thank you. And a lot of people responded on Instagram. Well, clicked like, and I have a, no, I won't say that. It's super weird. Okay, I got it too. I have some weird habits of how I experience people best. Maybe I will say it. It's a kind of strange one, but in an effort to never like count likes or be too preoccupied with, do the numbers say people like me or don't they? I try instead to stay focused on who exactly it is that liked something. And then I try to think about them. And that way, you know, if there's 2 likes on a post or there's 20 likes on a post, the only thing that really changes is the amount of time that I have to spend thinking about people kindly, you know, in gratitude for them taking the time to look at something I shared. And so it's changed my life in a lot of ways, because I'll use modern day language and say something really grotesque right now, but in the old days, if something only got 2 likes, I used to feel bad about myself. But like, the heck is that about? Some people like rewrite their whole life and rewrite their whole experience and rewrite what they actually want to share because they're paying attention to the numbers and they're thinking, well, when I post this kind of thing, it doesn't get enough likes. It's like, yeah, but those 2 people liked it. And maybe they were just feeling sorry for you because no one liked it. And maybe, you know, I wouldn't like purposely start posting things that only the 2 people like either. It's just, you know, you don't have to be defiant and go against the grain either. It's just that if you post what's actually in your soul to share, and in your heart to share, and in your mind to share, and in your mood to share that day, then if some days you get 2 likes and other days you feel like the world loves you and you're on some skyrocket to success, which I hate to be the spoiler to your dreams, but like, that doesn't happen for most people. That's not what most people's experience is going to be, and the things that create that are usually not just random posts on social media. So having a post that gets tons of likes isn't some step in any direction. It's just a reflection of that moment in time. And when I look at it that way, oh, last string. When I look at it that way, so anyway, that's how I spent my morning. Was I think it was the first time I've ever had like 83 likes on something, or maybe it's not that high, but it was enough that I spent like a lot of time, maybe 15 minutes, maybe even 20, like looking at each name. If it was someone I didn't know, I clicked on their profile and kind of thought about them or looked at their stuff for a second. And most of it was people I knew, and so I just thought about them and sent them some love in my mind. This isn't a holier than thou thing either. This is learned through experience of being the other way, of being like, woohoo, like as if it's something I did to get 83 likes rather than something that other people did to acknowledge my work or to give me a pat on the back. I think what I've never learned, or maybe no one ever learns, maybe it's not something taught and some people just innately know this and I didn't know this, is that when people are successful in things that are social, like say it's the popular kid at school, that's not something the popular kid did. That's more like grace. That's more like people are just acknowledging your general likability. And like, that's about other people. That's not actually about you. I mean, it is about you, but it's not something you can like craft and do, and people drive themselves crazy trying to be more likable. I don't think I'm that likable. I don't think that what I'm doing with my life is that relatable. And sometimes when something's completely unrelatable, it's harder to unilaterally like everything that that person does or says. I don't think I say a lot of relatable things. Sometimes I do, but I think sometimes I just say whatever pops in my head. And a lot of it's maybe a little controversial from a societal perspective, and so I try not to worry about that. I don't know. I don't even know if you can hear me right now, so maybe I'll play a song. I'm sitting on a little stoop, so I can't get any closer. I could move the bike closer, but I think it's meant to be. I meant to play an F chord and an A chord came out. And I think I'm right by where I once made a recording of a song called Boat Plane Bear, which isn't officially released yet, but there's a released version of it, I think. Oh no, maybe it's not on it. It's one of the songs that got left off of Everything's True Part 2. Everything's True Part 1 I released a really long time ago, right after yucky politics moment in history, and I just felt weird sitting on my work that I thought could quote-unquote help people, which was a song about how to deal with a lot of extreme emotions and be okay sitting in the middle with them. And it didn't help me or help other people maybe to release that song years early without really working on it hard and doing like a really nice release, but it kind of set me on my path of lo-fi, so I can't really complain. It's weird. It's like politics both activated me and deactivated me. It kind of took me off a trajectory that might have been a little bit more polished and professional, but it gave me this trajectory that actually matches my soul a lot better. And it matches my heart, and it makes me feel like I'm just a person floating along in the world. Like when I sit here in this space, I remember moments like this from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't remember my successes, I just remember little moments. first place the first time around. And how do you expect me to understand what your life means if I haven't lived it? And how do you expect me to be a late bloomer and not one to share about places where I've been all my life? I failed so much at so many things, but sometimes I got lucky, if you can call it lucky, to be suddenly liked. It's that 15 minutes of fame that kind of feels nice, but you know it goes away like waves in the sea, and you know it's going to be okay down here on your knees, praying to God for an answer to all of this pain, to all of this pain in your brain that doesn't know the way to be, or the way to go, or the way to see things differently when you're lost and you're losing control. You don't know where to go. Please don't be confused about what losing is, 'cause we all have to lose someone we love, or a board game, or a business venture. I almost said business adventure, but it's the same thing. I thought this guy was waving at me, but he was just swirling his arm in the air on a boat that can take him nowhere, because there's nowhere to go. It's just a lake. You go out and you come back. He's got a beer and I'll wait. Hello. So why not? It's a brand new day. I used to envy their boats. I used to wish I had a boat, but now I have a $100 kayak made for kids, well, made for teens, and I'm just at the weight limit. Well, almost, if you know what I mean. It's a cheap way to find my own way in the world, 'cause I've always been poor, or well, just month to month, and it's okay if you're just doing things your way. It's not really something to envy. Like that guy on that mini yacht with a skeleton flag. It's not what I want anyway. He's got some giant sound system, a tiki torch umbrella, and a flag, and a towel on a stick. The old me would have said, I want that, why can't I have that, how can I get that? Maybe not. But it's okay. It's okay. There's cause and effect. I haven't built my life around money, I've built it around feelings. It's cause and effect for you too. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. all the words that you use when you so could use less, and you try so hard to be wise, to be kind, but you lose your own mind all the time with all these lines in the sand, in the sky, all these flight paths you've made that are crossing, intersecting, and they're making you afraid to do it wrong, when all you have to do is write a new song. You don't even have to press record, Jess. I know. I did that yesterday. I wrote a song and I was like, dang it, I forgot my phone. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm just out on a walk and I had a ukulele and I was like, you know what, I'm still going to make one up. It ended up being about my sister and it was really profound for me. And it made me realize that a lot of times I have to edit because I'm trying to say things that I would say publicly instead of what I maybe really want to say to the universe or to the clouds or to God or to the sky or to you in my mind. Sometimes I feel like I can feel people in my mind. It's kind of weird, but I think we all can do it. I've just been doing it for so long. You just bring a person to mind and you just kind of imagine what you need to say to them or imagine what they need to say to you, and you just kind of live in that space and you let whatever feels true just kind of be true. Well, I don't really know if these are songs or rambles, or I almost shouldn't call all these things songs anymore, because I think I call them songs because at the front end I don't know what I'm gonna write, but then at the back end I usually know, like, oh, that's something I'll probably only listen to one more time ever in my life. And then other songs come out and you're like, oh, cool, that's one that I might put on like an album. But even that, I guess I mean like old-fashioned version of me, like put on an album as in like back when I used to follow traditional music industry models of, you know, one album every 5 years. Put on an album was a big deal in the old days. Now I release, like, I'm releasing something tomorrow. It's a 4-song EP that I wrote on Instagram Live. It's the first time I ever did that, and James was there and Dan was there, and anyway, a few other people were there. Jorge showed up, Michelle. Thank you. I was listing your names like as a way of being grateful for you in my mind. I wasn't trying to just like name drop people. Whoever's watching this probably doesn't even know. Hi, Seagull. I don't even know if you can see it because the glare is so bad, but there you go, a seagull moment. That's about all. Oh yeah, it's this way. That's about all I have to say. There's some more water. The speedboat. Grand Haven is really beautiful. I guess I will say this now. I've been avoiding this part of Grand Haven because during social distancing and everything with masks and 6 feet, and I noticed right when things started loosening up that there was definitely some tourism at what felt like a little too early, and it bothered me. I don't know. I just kind of, it didn't bother me as much in scaring me because, like, look, I know how to, like, get away from people. I found a spot that no one is, but it more bothered me, like, conceptually, and it made me reflect on my town, like, what kind of town am I living in? And obviously, if you've seen any of my other videos, I've been rambling about that more, how I'm seeing Black Lives Matter signs all over the place, and I go to a weekly, like, protest / peace vigil, and there's a lot of good and a lot of mixed viewpoints in this town, and I don't even mean to imply that I know it's an unpopular thing to say among liberals, but which I am, but I am not meaning to spread hate about the other side. I understand this concept of it. Well, if you vote for Trump, you're against trans rights, like you're actively against my safety, and I have a trans friend, and I understand. I would never vote for Trump, obviously, because of all my, like, absolute disgust, borderline PTSD for 3 years straight. But not even borderline. Like, he gave me a genuine flare-up of what it's like to be around that kind of dominant and psychotic male. That type of male is exactly what caused all of my harm in my life. That type of irrational use of language and manipulation. So clearly I don't want to see his personage in my life and my feed in any way. And I don't want what he's doing to our country. I don't like what he's doing to our policies, to the planet, any of it. But where I might be different than a lot of liberals is I'm not capable of saying, like, I know conservatives who literally worry based on how their business model is with being able to sustain their business in this sinking economy. If a Democrat is in office, which means, you know, I guess that would mean that they're choosing their own family, being able to feed their family over trans rights, and including trans safety for somebody that they maybe don't know. And these are like people that maybe are even on the more independent side that I'm talking about right now. And so I have a hard time writing them off entirely for that philosophy, because at the end of the day, one is a broad view of humanity and the other is a safety or how to provide for their family issue. And I wonder if that's where the divide is in the country. If why people who are more liberally minded, more progressive minded are being called snowflakes or being told to wake up, is because I believe that maybe the quote unquote other side is saying, who's going to pay for these social programs that you're saying we all quote unquote deserve? Who's going to pay for that? Like, if their businesses go under, and all businesses go way under, like, with what money do all of these people, including trans people, including LGBTQ, including someone like me who's paycheck to paycheck and kind of scrapes by, and it's like, you know, with what money are those social programs that I believe should exist, with what money are they funded and who's making that money? And I think, and that's where I feel that what Trump's whole team did was very skillful in a manipulative and disgusting way, which is to divide, you know, it's in every book, it's in history, it's everywhere, to divide the 99% and turn us against each other so that we're not focused collectively on the 1% having a grotesque amount of wealth. Like, we should all be, Republicans and Democrats should all just be insisting that the people that are hoarding billions of dollars take care of these social programs, or take care of the people, you know, because why are they hoarding those billions? Where did that concept of profit even come from? Where did they even get that profit, if not off the backs of their workers? And obviously I believe in trauma, and I believe in being dealt a good hand, an average hand, or a really, really, really unfair hand. And I have some privileges, definitely, skin color, but because of trauma and some seriously severe things that happened to me, like, I definitely have some disadvantages. And it's not my place to, hi, it's not my place to judge anyone who has had a similar or even more difficult amount of hurdles to overcome. So I think it's one thing to judge and believe in our hearts that everybody, or it's one thing to be non-judging and believe in our hearts that everybody has value and deserves to have comforts and be cared for. And it's another thing, and I'm mostly trying to kind of speak for what this other side is, because I kind of can understand aspects of it, not all of it, but I can understand a few aspects of it, which is which businesses, which wealthy people are going to pay for these people who do deserve more, and who among us is showing the most care for others. You know, like, if I'm not out volunteering every single day, if I'm not out caring for people, then let me take a different angle with this, because that's saying that we should all do more, and I want to try something else instead, because that seems to shame both sides and doesn't, like, one side should give more of their money, the other side should be doing more. You know, they're just complaining but maybe not out doing much activism. Who knows? I don't like the shame on either side. So if I take a different angle, I believe all people have mental health issues. I believe we are all experiencing crisis right now in different ways. Some people are experiencing their crisis by doubling down on their random pleasures. I mean, really, me writing songs is like a random pleasure, and that guy out in a boat, or, you know, some people are just doubling down on their normalcies. Even like wealthy person normalcies. And some people, the way to manage their mental health might be to get active, to be part of a protest. Like that started to help my mental health, to be part of something where I was visibly and physically speaking out and making a stance. And, you know, people drove by and I felt like I was part of something that just took a stand, literally. And all of these choices, I mean, some people are escapist with their mental health. Some people are aggressive with their mental health, like they attack it. I kind of tend to do more of that. Some people focus on what's good in their life, but in doing that, someone could criticize that and say, well, you're just avoiding a problem. And other people stare down the problem so hard that they leave their own lives and their own selves completely joyless, because maybe for 10 years all you've done is just go to therapy and stare down the problems without like rebuilding any solutions. And maybe the other side would be like, you know, are you gonna eventually end up enjoying your life, or what's this whole process for? What's the end goal here? What's the end game? And so I can see, when I zoom out like a bird, I can see the whole thing as being related to mental health and mental wellness. And I think what's happening in this country is that we are all operating from abnormal ground. And so the weirder the ground gets, and the ground is changing because we're all talking. We're all talking more about these issues, and we're talking differently than we ever did before. And so in these last 3 years, the ground is different, which changed the country, because a country is like an idea. I mean, the land is the same land, but we're changing the idea of what this country is by how we're all talking about it now. I've seen people who were borderline ready to join Black Lives Matter despite being like strong conservatives. And then because some of the more extreme language that was coming to the forefront, they backed out and now have gone pretty far to the other side. And so, but they were actually trying to really join and be on board. But some of the language and some of the ideologies were just too extreme for them. And I think you see that often in our politics. I think we have a pendulum style politics in our country, and that is how, you know, by constantly electing new leaders, it swings one way, swings the other, swings the other. And I've just always sort of hoped and prayed that peace would be maintained from the perspective of, if it keeps swinging, no one's ever happy for too long, and no one's ever sad for too long. That's my dream, but I am very peace-loving. But the reason I'm peace-loving is because I've lived through such severe trauma that I know what it feels like to have your world and your ground and the idea of what your country is, or the idea of what your reality is, or the idea of what your future is, completely destabilized. And I know how hard that is to build back up. I know how hard that is to even function, to go to a job, to make money, to pay your bills. Like all these things that I worry some people are just taking for granted right now, whether it's through an unemployment check or whether it's through just still holding on to certain comforts that would go away. Like if this country were to, I won't put the negative words in the air, but if anything were to get worse in this country, and like drastically worse, those comforts that like we see in like Depression era grandparents, you know, and we see them just clinging to, and I say that with love, clinging to very simple basic comforts like own your house, mow your lawn, eat your meals a day, maybe watch your Wheel of Fortune. Like I think in my generation that was almost judged, like too simplistic. Like where's your ambition, where's your dreams, why is this enough for you? And that's gross. My generation, I'm like 80s, 90s with what I was sold. That's when I was influenced, was in this 80s, 90s boom of like, you can be anything, be more, do more, everything. And it's like a kind of like stereotypical 80s movie where like people are like doing coke. I mean, I but like, you know, that sort of like more, bigger, better. It's that like stereotypical America, that 80s concept. And it's like, I don't believe in that. But like I was raised with that kind of notion of like compete, excel, do more. And I don't think everybody from my generation was, but I definitely had a lot of that put into me. So I guess that's what I'm seeing now, is I'm seeing like a willingness in the world for all of us just kind of like simplifying. Like I am simplifying. I am like, oh, I'm in my house a lot, and then I'm outside. And I just take bike rides, or I take a walk, or I make a video, or I make up a ukulele song, or I make up a piano song. And then I teach my piano students and my songwriting students, and I just kind of like exist, and I try to enjoy what I enjoy, and I try to be useful the way that I know how to be useful, which is one-on-one, which is like 1-on-0, because you're not really there right now, so I'm feeling safe to say what I really think. Whereas if we were having this conversation in real time, I'm the biggest chameleon you've ever met. And this is why I'm such an introvert, and this is why these videos work for me. Because in real time, if I were looking you in the eyes and trying to say any of this, I would detect if you disagree with me, and I would change my opinion. And it's disgusting, and I think that's why I mean, it's not disgusting. If you do that, just know you're not alone. I've done that most of my life. I've been so uncomfortable to exist in any strong way because I never wanted to be disliked, because I saw being liked is connected to like being successful, because I wanted to be like successful in your eyes and in that person's eyes and that person's eyes and that person's eyes, and like it's literally not possible. What you do is kind of create like a middle ground, like a middle way, which I guess Taoism says is good. So I'm just rambling. Well, that's longer than I meant to talk, but there's a cute little house that I wrote songs by once years ago. I know I used to talk about moving away all the time, but I really don't know where I would go. I don't have anywhere specific I need to be. Probably the only place, well, I don't want to say this for sure, but, well, why not? Who's watching this? I mean, if you are watching this, thanks. I feel very loved and listened to. If you've been following the aspects of my personal journey that sometimes talks about moving away, and then even recently had issues with, is Grand Haven too conservative, and then discovered it's pretty liberal in pockets and got really attached to that. And, you know, someone that I love, their philosophy is like, if everybody who has a more progressive view just moves away, then that makes the place more conservative. And it's like, if it were truly just me against all of them, I probably would just move away. But it really isn't. There's really pockets of diversity here. And so yeah, if you followed all that, you maybe noticed that recently I've been talking and acting more like, you know, I didn't mean to plant roots. I really didn't. Like Michigan Dreams album, you can kind of hear it in the Michigan Dreams album, and that's only November 2019. But it felt like a defeat, because the Colorado Feelings album from a year before, I kind of saw myself detaching from this place and like moving right by my sister, and it wasn't about moving by my sister, although I love her 3 kids and her husband and their life there. It was more about, it wasn't just about moving away from here. It was maybe about being closer to them, but it was maybe about the feeling I felt being up on a mountain, and I felt much more detached. And I hate to use weird spiritual metaphors that are related to physical reality, but I felt kind of dried out, like it's drier up there, the air is drier, everything felt like more in the clouds, like literally in the clouds, because it's up in the mountains, like 8,000 feet. They live way up the mountains in Colorado. I don't even know if I got the number of feet right, so it might be way more. It might be like 14. No, 14's what the big ones are, the 14ers. I don't know. They're way up there. You know, like 3 hours up from Denver, or 2.5. I don't know. Anyway, but coming back to Michigan after that experience back in 2018, I remember feeling very swampy here. And I landed in the airplane and I was like, oh, I'm at like ground level. It feels wet. I mean, we're in like the water basin. We're on a peninsula. We are like, the ground is even wet. That's why Nestle is corruptly just digging up all our water and stealing it and selling it just by buying some land. But they're digging up and turning a profit on the water that is the land of Michigan, which is horrifying and disgusting. And how can a business steal the water that is like in the land? That's like disgusting on so many levels. I just can't even understand it. How a corporation could have one tiny plot of land and then do that drilling and take the water from the whole basin that's not just part of that land. Like, that's levels of disgusting corporate BS that I just can't even get my mind around. Anyway, if that shows which team I'm on in terms of more progressive or more conservative, like, it's pretty obvious, but still, I just, anyway. I understand that some of my views don't come with an alternative of how else can we fill in the blank. But like bottled water didn't used to exist. And maybe water systems in cities were better back then. I have no idea. Maybe they've been able to go down because everyone just buys their water. I have no idea. This gets me into thoughts about Flint. Okay, anyway. Where was I going with that? Oh, myself. So to bring it back to my personal journey. Being in Michigan, for me, I kind of associate with just like the moisture in the air, the moisture in the land. Hello. And that's cool. And it's this feeling of like, you are like, it's just very wet. My plants love it here. It's very humid. The air is humid. It's just, in a spiritual way, it makes me feel like this is like almost like being underwater. Like not submerged fully maybe, but kind of. And maybe that's why I talk about flying so much, because maybe there's a part of me that is trying to figure out how to fly. I mean, those seagulls seem happy here. There's tons of birds here, so clearly birds are fine here. And my last name means bird. You probably know that if you've ever watched these before. Maybe you've never watched these before. Hi, my name is Jessica. I just ramble on YouTube. I don't really know what this is. There's a pontoon boat. That's my dream boat. Mostly because when I was a kid, my cousin Steve, well, my cousin Leanne and her husband Steve, cousin-in-law, is that what that is? We used to go pontooning with their family up in middle Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, on all these like tiny lakes. And have like, you know, a wine cooler or two, or when I was a kid, you know, a soda. And yeah, I just always really liked those experiences. They were very communal. You didn't really have to like talk or do anything. It was just kind of fun. Everybody was just laughing, having a drink or two. I mean, maybe they were having a lot. Maybe that's why it was fun. I have no idea. But it just always felt very chill. I mean, we did that with canoes too, with my uncle and my cousins, aunt and uncle and my cousins up in the rivers in northern Wisconsin too. They grew up in Madison. I'm from Racine. So Wisconsin's very beautiful. Nature is very beautiful. There are simple ways to enjoy nature. I brought up the canoes to say that I don't really need a pontoon boat. My new kayak will do. Anyway, and me and Brian rented like a tandem kayak one time. That was really fun. I'm just rambling now. I think I was trying to say something about moisture or being up in the clouds on a mountain. Oh, because I didn't mean to stay in Grand Haven. Like I stayed here, always feeling temporarily like Brian was figuring out some details of what he needed for his career. And I always felt like I was just kind of treading water. But I was making up all these challenges while treading water, so I don't know. But now I like it here. Partly because so much of my memory and history is here, including all of my family visiting here. And I don't know. Also, it is the #1 place to retire in the U.S., according to whatever survey that was. Craig Ferguson said it, so you know. It is beautiful. I try not to worry too much about what it is for other people. I just put the name on my Bandcamp, know that I like it, I like the land, I like my students and their families, I like the water, I like the forests. I like that it's very small but very, 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 very varied. There's neighborhoods, there's a pier, there's boats, there's a beach, and there's like a little cruisy drive. There's kitschy little places like corn dog stands and gyro shops, and there's craft breweries, multiple. There's amazing nachos and barbecue and Thai food, but separate from all that, it's also just like a one grocery store kind of one of most things kind of town. There's 2 Walgreens. There's 1 Home Depot. Like, it's very small. I never lived anywhere this small. Never. Never, 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 never. Not in college, not growing up. Certainly not in my 20s and early 30s with Chicago and New York. Like, it's different for me, but anyway. I did go on to Cape Cod once, and It was with the Touring Children's Theater, and I did say how much I loved it. There were like these tiny little tourist towns. I think I loved the one that was really LGBTQ. I think it's right at the end of Cape Cod, maybe. Anyway, I'm totally just rambling now. I had really weird dreams last night, and something just made me remember my childhood friend who grew up in Boston. Not just mentioning Cape Cod, but something else. I think I saw her on Facebook today. Alright, well, there's Rambles. Thanks for watching. Anyone who gets something out of my really weird, maybe diagnosably ADD style of storytelling. I have no idea. We didn't talk about ADD in my generation. We just talked about how if people kind of were really hard on me, I was an A+ student all the time, because obviously my mind moves really fast. But I don't think somebody with my type of mind would be really good in school unless they had someone kind of riding them. I don't know. I had a really competitive brother, and he's way more organized than me. Clearly, like if you look at our lives, he's like a very successful business person. He plays music too, though. Anyway, bye! I'm at the top of a hill by the beach. I don't really go down it, but I just walked my bike up it. Where am I pointing? That way, way over there. Past all the little summer cottages and the little pink hotel right on the beach strip. Anyway, that's Grand Haven. I will tell you, in case you think this looks irresponsible, some of it, when I look at it, some of it I do see an irresponsible closeness, but I will tell you, for mid-July, you wouldn't even normally be able to see sand. It would just look like people. Yeah, it would just look like color and people. So this is way, way fewer tourists than normal. And then on top of that, I mean, yeah, I gotta get over this thing of thinking I need to defend every person in the city I live in. Like, when I lived in Chicago, there were a lot of corrupt people there, and I'm sure that's true in New York City too. I think it's just because the town is smaller, I feel like I'm repping it. Anyway, and here's some really cool looking houses that overlook the lake. I really like houses, even though based on the way my life is going, I'll be lucky if I can ever afford to buy one, even a tiny one. We've definitely gotten used to our little house that it doesn't have big rooms, but it does have like 4 separate spaces. So we each have like an office and a guest bedroom, sort of, kind of combo, and there's room for a music studio and a bedroom, and definitely gotten used to that. So we could just rent our whole lives. Who knows? It's not ideal, but people with many worse problems, we've at least found a house that we enjoy renting and that we are lucky to live in. Nothing like these crazy big ones, though. And so I really do think it's about exposure, about who you're around, because I think based on what my life has been, I would have been a person who resents rich people, because I've tried really hard much of my life to do things and accomplish things. They just haven't been things that are necessarily for financial value, because I don't really like a lot of the trends in the world. And so I can't really turn my craft into something that follows trends. And I've never been someone who can really create trends, so that's what that is. Anyway. And some people just completely give up on music and do something more practical, and then that's how they make their money. And then they do it on the side. And that's another option, but I like teaching. It's a good fit for me. Speaking of which, I should go. I have to teach. Okay, just wanted to show you the view.